Good morning, everyone. To yet another session of Awesome Workers Online. Today we have a very special guest, and we are in very special circumstances as well, which he will introduce himself when he comes on board. But Awesome Workers has been a very passionate project of mine, and I've been looking forward to having Awesome Workers for the longest period of time online. And now this has got kickstarted, and I'm really excited about this whole journey that I'm going through right now at this point of time, connecting with amazing, awesome people across the world. Earlier, I had to look for people only in Dubai or when they visited Dubai, but no more. The world is an oyster, and I am going to go chasing them. So we almost were at the verge of not having this Awesome Workers today morning for reasons which will be explained very shortly. Nevertheless, I was anyway going to come online live and tell you something and share with you learnings, things that might have happened in the way along the way otherwise. But that not being the case, we have someone who, just like me, is a civil engineer by training and a trainer by choice. So I finished my civil engineering as well a long time back in 1999, and I wanted to become a trainer as well, but life took me in different directions, and I didn't get the opportunity to become a trainer for the longest period of time, although I would do training off and on in the different organizations that I was a part of, but I never looked at it as a formal way of being. But this gentleman has been creating ripples everywhere he's gone and everywhere he's been. He's also visiting faculty, I believe, at the IIM, and that's a place where I used to be a long time back. I used to be in IIM Bangalore, not as a student, but as my friend who was studying over there. I used to go and live in his room, and I used to say, when I was in IIM those days, and people say, when did you study in IIM? Well, I never studied in IIM. I don't think I studied anywhere. I'm studying always constantly, by the way, with life, and that is the beauty of Awesome Workers and the conversation that I have, because I feel this is my university. So without much further ado, let me bring in the humorist, the very fine gentleman. Let's bring him, Mr. CK, also known as Chendil Kumar. Welcome, sir, to this conversation.
Hi, Samir, and hi to everybody on this live chat. What a pleasant surprise, Samir. First thing is you're a civil engineer, and the second, you two are associated with the IIMB in some way. Great to know that. And as far as I know, most of the civil engineers I know have been doing things apart from civil engineering. In fact, my professor said Chendil Kumar's greatest contribution to civil engineering is he stayed out of it. So I hope you're not like that. Yeah.
I am like that. Actually, what happened was, right in our first class, the professor said to us that as a doctor, you're responsible for one life at a time. As a civil engineer, you're responsible for many. So make a wise choice in life. So I decided to save lives, by not being.
Yes.
Yes. So let's get the context of your current situation, actually, with respect to your power outage and everything. Would you like to?
Yeah. There is a power outage in my area, and I'm just talking through the mobile phone, which has a charge of around 50% approximately. I hope we can continue as long as possible. But if I suddenly vanish, one reason could be outage. The second is Samir has asked me such a tough question, I simply vanish. So this happens in the table topics. If I find the topic tough, I'll simply say my power went off. Anyway, come on, Samir. I always appreciated the way you have a fire. I was reminded of Franklin D. Roosevelt's fireside chat, where a president's address to the nation was so informal. I love the way you set up your beanbag and your coffee, although I miss all that. I love this. And the best thing for the viewers, I just want to tell you, I thought Samir is going to send me a list of prepared questions. He's going to set an agenda. Nothing of the sort. He said, just have a chat. And I thought we are going to get into an extended table topic session. And this is the so there are no put-ons here. You're not going to see a cosmetic image of me exactly as it comes. Raw files, as the photographers would say, Jim Samir.
Yes, absolutely. Raw as it can be.
Yeah.
So we have had all the passing conversations. I really don't know much about your real journey, how it started off. So could you give me a context of how you decided to follow your passion of being an entrepreneur and being a trainer and being on your own and not going the corporate way of doing things?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to start how it all began?
Yes, like how you decided,
Yeah.
let's say, for example, to be on your own, or how you found your passion in this training industry. Do you remember?
Okay, fine. Yeah, I remember. See, like all conventional students of my era, the accepted norm was either an engineer or a doctor or a chartered accountant. I got engineering. But like I told you, my mind was always into the social arts. I excelled in debating, extempore and things like that. So once I completed, I really didn't have a mind for anything to do with civil engineering. But a business opportunity came my way where I had to buy and sell goods. So for until my age 45, I was doing things like a typical businessman, buying and selling industrial goods, of course, nothing to do with my public speaking or training. But then I realized that there was something wanting. I somehow never got involved in this business. It was a simple business, buying and selling, but somehow I didn't feel. And then, people say, there was a defining moment when I met Dr. DVR Seshadri, who was my classmate in school. But I think he became my mentor, guru, or a beacon of light, as you would call it. So I was just telling about the frustration of doing something which I'm not at all interested, and definitely the business was going on the downslide. That was one major reason. And then he asked me a question: "What else are you?" I said, because of my early uh, backing in public speaking, because of the JCs, the junior JCs in Manipal, and he wanted me to evaluate the IIMB PGP students as an external evaluator. And my feedback got excellent feedback from the students, and said this is one of the most realistic feedbacks that we've ever got. And then my mentor decided that you need to wind up your business because you seem to be having some, not just some, you seem to be having a lot of passion, and no external evaluator before has got a feedback that you've got. Then I knew that this was something that, and best part is I loved all this. 12 o'clock, you asked me to get up and give a speech, I would have been ready. Turn my, eyes towards, asked me to close down my business and get into training. And that's how the whole journey started, Samir. I think in my case, I had nothing to do with this, but the guiding spirit of a mentor.
And if you look at the experiences that you have had, over, let's say, 25 years, from 20 to 45 maybe, would you write it off, or would you say that that role prepared you for what you're doing right now?
Never write it off. In fact, my mentor tells me one thing: when you lose, don't lose the lesson. In my buying and selling, I was involved in a lot of sales, and I accompanied a lot of salesmen and marketing guys in negotiations. And that experience stood very valuable when I started teaching influencing and negotiations. And my audience realized one of the best feedback that I've got is this faculty is not a theoretical person. He's obviously seen a lot, and he brings that experience into his negotiation. I think that was a significant feedback. All the failures in my business and perhaps a bit of successes helped me to, chart my programs in my training. Yes, never write off. Learned so much from all these failures that I had. How people exploited me, or how I exploited somebody. All this came in handy. And the moment I used to give an example, people immediately used to light up and say, hey, I've gone through this. I think that's where the experience helps. Yeah.
And when you look at your childhood and you look at, why did you choose civil engineering, by the way? Was it your parental pressure, or was it your own thinking that this is perhaps something that you want? The reason why you chose civil engineering, was it because of your pressure, or was it because of some other reason?
Now, it is to blame my parents, but no, it was the societal pressure or peer pressure. Now, for example, my father was a senior officer in the Indian Railways, and we used to meet in the clubs, and generally the talk goes around what your son is doing. And more importantly, to soothe my father's ego, he must have felt this is the least I can. After that, how I turn out is different. But perhaps if he had pushed me into a different course earlier, I would have started blaming him and said, you had all the means to put me into engineering. Why didn't you do? I'm talking about the social conditions then. But today, things have changed. Kids openly tell you, I'll give my own experience. The whole world was running after computers and IT in India. My son stood up and said, I want to do mechanical engineering. That's it, period. My wife was shocked because all her colleagues, her relatives were doing computers. He said, no way. There is no way I can sit and do coding. You see how kids change. And I was just thinking, I wish I had the guts to tell my dad I wanted to do BA and not engineering. But yes, it's a combination of societal pressure and the feeling that parents have for their children.
True. But when I look at people who are great at debating, when I look at people who are great at public speaking, especially at a very young age, they're usually not only young age, I think at any point of time in their life, they're really very confident people, right? They're confident about themselves, they're confident about their thoughts. Do you agree with that?
Do you?
Do you agree with that concept? Do you agree with that? That people who are great at debating and who are great at...
Not necessary. I don't know how many of you can relate to this. I started my public speaking right from the 4th standard, but let me tell you, I used to be possessed when I came on stage, but once I came off, I was nothing exceptional. Not very confident, still nervous, aware of my shortcomings, my paunch, my behavior, so many things. But one thing that public speaking helped me was, in the college, I realized that you don't necessarily have to look good or be a champ or have those biceps to be popular. The ability to speak and attract people is an important, and from there I built up my confidence, yes. But in the early stages, if your question is, were you naturally very confident and forthcoming? No, definitely not. But repeated exposure to public speaking definitely gave me the confidence that I too have some talent. I don't have to necessarily, and that is something that public speaking definitely gives. Yes.
I remember when I was in 4th standard, I went up on stage and I froze. I didn't speak, and that left a huge mark on me for a long period of time, actually. So my question is again about, how did that happen? I mean, from 4th standard for you to be on stage, performing well, where did you get the support from, or the guidance or the mentoring from to become effective? Was it your mother, was it your father, or was it yourself that was there within you?
Yeah. Very interestingly, unlike most of these public speaking stories who say that their first stage experience is a bomb, mine went out without a hitch. I have 2 reasons for this. One is perhaps heredity. My maternal grandfather was a freedom fighter associated with the Indian National Congress and used to speaking to a whole lot of crowds. So my mother invariably used to tease my father and said, this comes from my part of the genes. But to prepare for this debate, my father's father was staying with us in a city called Palakkad in Kerala, and he used to tutor me on the nuances of he always used to say, before you decide to speak on any subject, understand the context. My first public speaking exposure was to recite a verse from a Tamil classic called Silappadigaram. I don't know if you heard of Kannagi, who burnt the Madurai city because her husband was wrong. It was written by Ilango Vadigal. I kept on memorizing this. Then my grandfather intercepted and said, "Do you know the history? Do you know the background?" And once I listened to him like a story, I was actually able to replicate Kannagi's feelings. That's what my audience or teachers told me. So both the grandfathers, one indirectly and one directly, helped me to gain this confidence. And these stories help you a lot, let me tell you. The storytelling aspect.
That's a beautiful sharing, actually, because we don't see the lessons behind how somebody. This is for the first time I'm hearing how you could actually train someone to become a better public speaker, to give them the context behind the story and the speaking and the verses. People are so obsessed with what they have to say, and
Yes,
the feeling is lost, right? So what he did was he
and
instilled the feeling.
yeah, significantly, Sameer, one of the first lessons unknowingly I learned was if you try to memorize your speech word by word, you miss one word and it'll be a flop show. But what my grandfather indirectly said is memorize ideas. That's all. What happens? What is the feeling that is being anguish of a wronged wife? That's all. And you go ahead even if some words are here and there. And that I think was an important lesson for me. I realized this much later while participating in Toastmasters contests and things. And this is something I tell my mentees also. Don't memorize word to word. Just memorize ideas.
Beautiful. Your grandfather speaks my language.
Exactly. No, I was privileged. I was privileged to submit. Yeah.
That's exactly the way that I approach.
Yeah. Were you
Yes.
saying something?
No, I'm good. You were saying something?
No. I'm just telling. Don't you think today's kids miss all this togetherness of listening to their grandparents, the fireside chat that we used to have with our grandparents?
Yeah.
No, I really feel sorry for them, No. Yeah, anyway.
Humor is widely associated with you, and whenever, even the opening that you did today, it comes so naturally and effortlessly to you. I know you didn't have a script. You didn't think, okay, when Sameer calls me, this is what I'm going to say. You just come on and then it just pops up out of you. So for someone who wants to be humorous and to want to train to become better at humor, what would you say from your observations or from your learnings?
Now, I'm the best example of someone who was by nature very serious, and my earlier speeches used to be loaded with content, which means a lot of morals, obviously, because of my grandfather's influence. But here is one more angle. I told you about my parents' influence. Every evening when we went to our native place, my grandfather used to tell stories from Ramayana, Mahabharata. And next day, my sister, my brother, and I were supposed to tell him the morals that we learned from the story. It was more like a school teacher. But just as soon as he finished, on the other side of our home in village, my grandmother used to sit with a lot of goodies prepared, and she used to tell some stories from the same Ramayana and Mahabharata with a lot of humor. We used to laugh like anything. And then I realized, why is it that I find her so captivating in spite of the fact that my grandfather gives you all the proper lessons? Then I realized the value of humor. My initial speeches used to be loaded with a lot of, great words because I wanted to impress the audience. But the first time I made a small dig at myself, I knew that I was in for the audience connect. And I'll tell you, I was watching Ran's interview with you. Now, she attended a workshop of mine in Dubai called the Humor Workshop. And I asked the audience also to come and explain or just crack a joke. And she was so sportingly, she spoke about herself. She's referring to the tiny stature of hers. She said, I'm a laptop. I can fit into anyone's lap. I love that comparison. And immediately I retorted, this is the cutest laptop I've ever seen in my life. And then I realized Saira is much more than all this. You look at her poetry, you look at her thoughts, you look at her feelings, especially about relationships. No bullshitting, candid. And then I knew. But I think even then, she has a capacity to attract people with humor. To cut a long story short, I found that humor instantly connects you with people. And I learned it the hard way. Because many times humor is bombed in front of an audience. And I was almost booed because people didn't like it. But I said, this is the only thing I know. And I kept trying. If there's anybody out there feeling that, no, this is not my cup of tea, please don't be alarmed. I'm the best example of a failure becoming a somewhat successful person.
For me, humor is easy when it is in a conversation, but very difficult when it is in a speech.
Correct. Definitely. Yeah.
Definitely, Samir.
Are you making a statement or are you asking me a question?
No. You just was saying, yes, definitely, Samir. You don't speak well on stage. When you're having a conversation.
Oh my God. Hey, no. I think this is again unintended humor. What I meant was speaking in public is difficult. I mean, humor in public speaking is difficult, not with reference to Samir. But anyway, this was some unintended humor anyway, by the way.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. This is a great example, where you can take context and you can just build on it and you can create humor in a conversation. But it's so difficult in a speech where you have to create the context, you have to deliver the punchline, and you have to do all that stuff together. Because setting context is also, I think that is how it should be done. You have to focus on how do you set the context, maybe.
Samir, my thought is, the moment audience thinks you're trying to be humorous, you will face resistance. But if it comes as an afterthought, as an amplification to a point. In fact, in my humor workshops, I always make this point, humor, point. Make a serious point, amplify it with an anecdote or a one-liner, and then restate the point. Because this humor is weaved into the script, people laugh and they will not think that it is imposed. But imagine if somebody comes and starts with a joke just to get the laughs, that I think is not proper. That's when I think people fail and they never have the guts to go back and do it. So there is a way of preparing also. Start small, start with one-liners, test the waters, and then slowly build it into the script. That's all. It takes time.
Cool.
It takes time.
On your website, you describe yourself in one word.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious to know why that one word is curious.
Yes. Now, frankly, whether school, college, or in Toastmasters, I always have that mentality to learn. See, once upon a time, I was shut because after getting some competency, let's say, for example, in Toastmasters, when I used to repeatedly get the Best Speaker Award and the Best Table Topic Speaker Award in Bangalore, LA 1924, I used to imagine myself to be a monarch. I said, I'm unbeatable. Why should I come to meetings to learn from someone? But I found that you can learn from an icebreaker also. There was a girl called Anisha Mascarenas from Bangalore Toastmasters who was giving her icebreaker, and she said, man of my dreams, I don't want him to come on a white horse and all that. Just a BMW will. And this statement was so effective. I tell you, Samir, 20 years later, I still remember this. And then that was an awakening. Wow, what is happening here? Very simple. She had no pretension. She didn't claim to be an expert. And look at the way she connected. And then I got curious. I made it a point, especially to attend icebreaker speeches with keen attention, because These kids, you can learn so much from these kids. And in my club's Media Speakers Society, I think Kanika Jain, the Komal Jain, sorry, she said, it is okay to have ups and downs in life and things happening in an unexpected way. If everything goes according to a plan, it's an algorithm, not life. Wow, those were very serious words. Then I realized you don't need stature to create impact. And that's when I got curious about everything. How do things work? How does he imbibe? I mean, so many things.
Beautiful. And for those who are listening probably online and who is not part of Toastmasters, they must be wondering what is icebreaker, what is topics, so what is. So let us put that context into place as well, because both of us are Toastmasters, and probably you could share what is Toastmasters and why you think someone should join this organization. Especially if there are people who,
I'm sorry, maybe I should have checked with you how many are Toastmasters and not, but then I realized you have a fan following beyond Toastmasters. So anyway, for the benefit of those who are not Toastmasters, it's an excellent platform to test your public speaking skills. And in my opinion, this is the only organization where you get feedback. There are many organizations like the Rotary, the Lions, and the JCs, which give you a lot of opportunity to speak, but I don't find a single organization which can help you to improve. And this is where I find Toastmasters to be. I mean, you don't have to take my word for it. Attend any of the clubs, because today it is easy. Everything is virtual. See what goes on, how people come and make speeches, and the table topics that I was referring to is something that helps you to gain impromptu speaking skills. Even in your workplace, let's say a client asks you a question and you're getting flustered. Instead of getting flustered, how do you give a quick reply? All these things you will get, and finally, you will get some seasoned feedback of what went on well and what you can do better. And just imagine if this happens consistently, week after week or month after month, definitely you will be better than point A to point B. My only request is don't compare yourself with other speakers. Where was I last month and where am I today? For example, when I used to speak, one of the feedback that I received was, in a course of 5 to 7 minute speech, I used the word whatever 26 times. They said, just watch out for this. Next time, if I can bring this 26 down to 23, I've made progress. That is the kind of organized feedback that Toastmasters gives. Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have checked.
No, you don't have to. It's perfectly okay, because that is how we roll, right? But was it you that they said you're using it 26 times, whatever?
Yeah, I was using 26 times in my initial days.
Did you say whatever?
Yeah. And my icebreaker went on for 11 minutes and 12 seconds. And my mentor was really upset. And you know what the timekeeper, what the reason he gave? He said, I was so engrossed in CK's speech, I forgot to switch off the timer. It gives me an ego kick, but definitely it was not right. For 4 to 6 minutes, I had no business to be doing 11 minutes. But you learn, right? You learn.
Yeah. And you're saying since the age of, since 4th standard, you were a speaker. So what got you into Toastmasters actually? What made you step into this world if you're already speaking well?
No. My basic public speaking skill was rather polished by me joining the Manipal Junior JCs, which is again an individual development organization. They ran a workshop called Effective Public Speaking, and I went through the full course. And throughout college, I captained my college team in debating and all that. But once I stepped out, I got into this business, like I told you. For 15 years, I had nothing to do with public speaking. In fact, that was on the back burner. But as they say, whenever something is of innate interest to you, it doesn't die away. It is always within. You can never kill knowledge or the skill that you've got. In Times of India, Bangalore, I read a nice news item about a club for public speakers called LA 1924. And I was curious. I said, let me go and attend. This is something to do with me. And then I got hooked on to the idea. And as they say very emphatically, the rest is history. But I'm glad that, but I connected at the age 45, but I'm glad that I connected at least then.
Yeah. Better sooner than later, they say, right? I mean, anytime, now is the best time to do whatever you want to do. You have zeroed in as a result of you identifying and discovering your passion for training into the world of negotiations. And
Yes.
I want you to just share how you picked that up as a niche that you want to focus upon. And we'll start with that.
I told you I was mentored by Dr. DVR Seshadri, and I started doing a lot of programs in IIM Bangalore, not for the students, but for that you have to have a doctorate. I was started doing programs for the executive education program, and I received
as a niche that you want to focus upon. And sorry,
is there a no?
Yeah,
I heard a time overlap. Anyway, let me continue. Is it okay now?
Yes, it is okay.
Okay. Dr. DVR Seshadri at IIMB, he gave me a lot of sessions for executive education program. And I realized that while I was getting a lot of applause, I was concerned about, was I really adding value? Then I once again requested my mentor to sit in one of my sessions and give me some feedback. Now, what happened was, he sat through and he gave me most memorable feedback that I can ever remember. He said, CK, you have the remarkable ability to engage with any kind of audience. No doubt about that. You have a lot of life, you put a lot of humor. But when I get out of the room, I should be thinking, what message or messages did this guy have? There I find that it is hollow. So you need to specialize in certain skills and make sure you are the best, at least aim for that. And when I looked at my biodata, I was doing everything and anything that my clients wanted. Business communication, stress management, time management, anything, reading some books and keeping it up. Then I realized this laundry list will not do. And by that time, I had developed an association with India's largest software company called TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. And I went abroad, that is US, and I immediately signed up for a course on negotiations at the Harvard Law School. That is a 3-day course on how to teach negotiation in organizations. Because I felt I had to specialize in one or two aspects. And the next year, I went to Phoenix, Arizona under Dr. Robert Cialdini, who's a worldwide authority on influencing skills. Then I started focusing on these two, and these two have become my prime subjects. And I've eschewed a lot of other baggage, which I claim to be teaching. The funny thing is, I, who needs a lot of lessons on stress management, giving a lesson on stress management was something that even I could not digest. But influencing and negotiation, the reason why I chose this was, in my business, I had a lot of experiments or experiences where I was successful, and I was also failure because of my inability to negotiate. And sometimes my humor has helped me to retain a client. So I thought these two subjects will be apt for me to specialize. And once again, my mentor said, I think this was the right choice. And that's how I focused on these two subjects.
My next question to you is this, and these are really valuable insights. And I believe everyone should have a mentor in their life, someone who will see what's missing, or someone who, how does one go about choosing the right mentor, deciding who to listen to, or how do you go about that whole process of picking the right one?
Yes. In my case, it just was offered to me on a platter because I knew my schoolmate. He was studious, and circumstances, I would say, matched me. But if you say, how do I choose my mentor? Probably now it is easy because you get a lot of information. Let's say I will go back to my public speaking again.
Can I
if somebody
pause there for a second? May I pause you for a second, if I may?
Yeah, sure.
You say it was offered to you on a platter, but I think there are a lot of people who would have given you advices. You decided to go with his. This is my understanding of how it would have happened in your life. It is quite likely that many people would have given you advices, but you decided that his advice or his suggestions make the greatest value to me.
Many people gave advice. This is not for you. That's all. But what to do after that, nobody gave. That's where I think.
So I want to go back to the original question again, which is how do you choose and say and accept that this person's, because DVR Shetty did not come to you and say, I'm going to be your mentor, I'll tell you what to do and you should listen to me. I don't think he did that to you, right?
It doesn't happen that way. Now you need to understand, just do a quick check about the personality type and how compatible you will be with them. Now I'll tell you, I was supposed to. Pardon?
Did you do that?
Yes. With compatibility in the sense, why was DVR Seshadri so comfortable for me? I knew him. We were from the same background, and he was not my competitor. So whatever he said would be in my own benefit. He was at a much higher level than me, and there was no way I could be his competitor. The problem happens when you start choosing your peers. Sometimes if you become better than them, it also becomes a negative point. And it happens. When a mentor sees that the mentee is overshadowing himself or herself, there is an innate urge to put them down. So you need to choose people who you think will help you in a particular aspect. Now, for example, I'll just give you one simple example. My regular mentee, whom I coach on public speaking, once came and said, I want the nuances of body language, voice modulation. So can you coach me? I said, look here, my style of speaking is conversational. I rarely resort to, running around the stage, and nothing wrong with that. And that's one of the reasons perhaps why I have not entered any contest. So I suggested my good friend Pramod Shankar, apart from being a master storyteller, he's an expert in this voice modulation and body language. So if I were to ask your direct question, I need to do some research and have some check on people, maybe watching their videos or their writings and see, will this expertise help me to gain where I am, to gain what I want? Or will this person simply give me some generic advice? And then I decide to choose my mentor. It could be public speaking, it could be career advice, or it could be anything else.
So is it important that you should know your goal very specifically before you choose your mentor, or would the mentor help you find your goal?
While a direct answer would be yes, but do you realize whenever we approach mentors, we ourselves are so confused that we are looking for direction from our mentors.
Yeah.
So don't worry. If you don't have a very clear goal, in fact, if you had such a clear goal and thing, you don't need a mentor at all. So because you're in a hazy state of mind, like the proverbial Arjuna who decided not to fight, you have to seek your, no religion here, please. It's just a metaphor. So you just go to your mentor and say, look here, I'm confused. What do I do now?
Yeah.
And a mentor is someone who will not simply advise, who will simply show the path and say, you choose. I don't trust my views on the person. This is what I feel is good for you. Now you decide.
Interesting. We have 5 minutes more to wrap up. I would like to wrap up at 45. And what has been your greatest life lesson, or when you look at kids today, these days? And if you look at your journey, if you look at your own life, if you look at your own life journey, and if you had to go back to your younger self and say something or share something, CK who is 20 or 25, who is just about to launch his career, what would you go and tell him?
Maybe this may be unconventional. I will simply say, be who you are here. That's all. Because I'm not going to compare generations. I'm not going to blame anybody, nor am I going to praise today's kids, because the circumstances are changing so rapidly that each generation has its own advantages. And perhaps we acted best what best came to them. But again, to your pointed question, perhaps I wish I would have had the guts to tell my 20-year-old CK, just go and tell your dad that engineering does not interest you. Plead with him, fall at his feet, and ask him to admit you in BA. In fact, I was offered a seat in one of Chennai's famous colleges because I had scored the highest marks all India in higher Sanskrit. I got the Professor Tiwari gold medal for scoring 180 out of 200, which means I had a fair predilection for languages and social sciences. Maybe I would have told the 20-year-old CK, argue with your dad and please allow him and tell him that I will be happy in this genre or whatever it is. Maybe that's the only thing. But again, like I said, no blaming, because each experience you learn. But to conclude, I must tell you, I wish, because after that I may not have time to tell you all this. In May, in fact, precisely on May 1st, I'm going to be the keynote speaker at District 18 District Conference, which is in Pennsylvania. Now, Karina, who's the conference chair, has been corresponding with me off and on. And I've almost ignored her postscript or the signature. And last week, I found a fabulous saying, which I thought resonated with my life. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. And I could resonate with each and every word submit. I found my gift in Toastmasters, public speaking. And today, I'm giving it away to so many people. And so many have joined Toastmasters. They've become confident because of me, who was once considered an abject failure. Brilliant words. The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of it is to give it away. Yeah.
Totally resonate with that. Totally. And the more we can actually identify, I think youngsters today, what they should do is go and identify what the gift is. The journey is in finding that gift first, right?
Exactly. True.
And the moment you tap into your gift, then every day becomes exciting. Every day becomes enriching.
Yes.
True. Thank you so much, CK. Any parting words other than what you just shared, which is also beautiful parting words, but is there anything else that you would love to share with especially youngsters today? Because when you say be yourself, a lot of people, they think I am myself, right? And I get what you're saying is all about authenticity and being authentic to who you are. But how can, as parting words, I would like to have from your side, what does being yourself mean?
Okay. Now, in the public space or even the personal space, I believe that we have all started playing a lot of games. We have a facade, whether feedback or interpersonal relationship, there is so much of hypocrisy. So I'm realizing it at a very, very advanced stage in my life, because I was guilty of all this. You don't want to tell something because it will be unpleasant. But I would only wish, even at the cost of spoiling your relationship temporarily, I wish people would become more sincere in their relationships. I think life will be a better place. And by the way, I'm in no mood to. Rather, I don't have the status to advise, because I still think I'm very young at heart. I love to think of myself as the youngest member of my club, and I will no way try to advise it. Anyway, that keeps you healthy also, right?
And what would you say to parents?
Pardon?
And what would be your advice or recommendation to parents? If you had to say something to parents.
Advice, really nothing, because the only thing I realized...
Let's call it parting.
Okay, we've been very, I'll give you my own experience. I've been acting like a friend to my son. And the same is the case with my my wife. So I think that matters. The age-old relationship of fear, which even Saira mentioned. She loved her parents, but there was an atmosphere of fear. But that is totally removed here. And I think if parents maintain that kind of transparency and an openness, I think you have a better chance of resolving problems. Better chance.
Yeah. Make it a partnership, right, on both sides.
Yes, exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, CK, for that candid conversation that we have had. Even though you were not in real convenient situation today, I acknowledge and applaud your commitment that you made to have this conversation, and beyond all circumstances, beyond the fact that you had to use your data, there is no Wi-Fi, you're not able to use your laptop, you're standing and you're moving around with your phone. Yes, it shows your commitment to everything that you do, actually, and for that I acknowledge you.
I was not flattering you when I said that I love this format, because many people make it a canned interview. They send you questions in advance, and you try to put on your best self, and somehow that doesn't come out very sincere. But this is an open-hearted chat. I might have made some mistakes, so what? I'm only showing that I'm also a human being. And let me tell you, just because I've been talking like this, I'm not a perfect human being still. I still make mistakes. Very recently, a very trusted business relationship, and I'm still very impulsive. I'm trying to change that. Just because a change in the business relationship was conveyed on a WhatsApp message and not by a phone call, I got disillusioned, and now the relationship is in a slender thread. No need for names anyway. Now, the point is, being such a senior, I could have clarified. No, but my ego did not permit me. I felt, come on, they should have at least called me. But now I've learned from that lesson, and I keep calling people and not just send some faceless text messages or WhatsApp messages. So I think it's a process of learning, sir, right? So
absolutely. And this is what we are in always constantly, right? There's a beautiful quote which says, perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yes.
And if we try to be perfect in all aspects, we stop putting on anything. We just, because there's nothing that is perfect, right? There's always room for improvement. There's always something that you can do better. There's always, so if we start at the bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's up. Right?
That's up, yeah. Perfect. That's a nice put it.
So wonderful. Great takeaways, great learnings.
Thank you.
My most favorite sharing that you did today was about your grandfather and how at a very young age he asked you those questions that triggered you to think about how you go on stage and how you speak. And that, I think, was a great takeaway for me, and the fact about how we identify our mentors. And also it brought my own realization about how we make our choices when we choose someone as a mentor for ourselves. And to choose someone wisely, to choose someone who has achieved something, to choose someone who is far ahead of us, to choose someone who's aligned with us. All great lessons, great reminders. Thank you so much, CK. Till we have a conversation. Thank you.
Thank you to Samir, and thank you to all of you who are watching this. Thank you so much. Stay safe, guys. Stay healthy. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, it brings us to the end of our second online session of Awesome Workers. Great lessons, great takeaways. Looking forward to having more amazing, inspiring conversations with amazing Awesome Workers. For those of you who do not know, Awesome Workers are the ones who walk their talk, and they do it with a huge scoop of awesomeness by creating a difference in the communities that we live in. Till we meet again, I wish you a good day.